Drew, the owner of Wiltshire Publications, would have rented both buildings. The Art House Cafe was originally run by his wife, Susan Drew. I think most of you probably know Sue. And the Melksham News used the room above, hence we had the whole building really. When Sue gave up running the cafe, we sublet the cafe to the Rotary Club, the downstairs, but we continued to use the upstairs room for Wiltshire Publications business. So the question that kind of we have, and Vanessa kindly mentioned, I've discussed with different members of the council, is essentially what we'd like to do is, for our own kind of in difficult times at the moment, we would like to secure a lease on the top room above the Art House Cafe and the 31 Marketplace building. The downstairs of the Art House Cafe, we don't really need to, we don't need to continue leasing that. And obviously we haven't really got any real hopes of it, someone coming in and taking over as cafe again. So for us, it would just be a wasted space, and pretty much for the community, really, it would be an empty, there'd be nothing in there. So it's better served, utilised by you guys, we feel. So yeah, essentially what we were looking for from it is just an agreement that we could continue leasing the top room going forward, and then I can draw up a lease with the clerks or whoever it does that, the officers, and then obviously we want to renew the lease on 31 Marketplace as well.
Okay. Okay, so are you continuing to pay rent?
We are at the moment. We had a stay on the rent above the Art House because we weren't really using the whole building. Obviously, the Rotary Club pulled out, so they stopped paying rent to us. We're paying the full rent on 31 Marketplace, which is where we sort of main operate from at the moment.
Okay. As I understand it, we haven't been able to track down 2 leases, so perhaps you'd be kind enough to photocopy and provide a set of copies for the town clerk. I think that might help things.
Yeah, I can certainly try and dig those out, no problem at all, and I'll fire them across to Linda, no problem.
Okay, so where are we? All right, Richard, what would you like to say?
Chair, can we give this plenty of publicity, because the Melksham Rotary ran a very successful Art House Cafe here for many years and produced a lot of money for their various charitable events. So potentially it's a very, it's obviously a very town centre site, very, there's much opportunity here for a cafe. Can we make sure that we do advertise this feature widely and invite somebody else to perhaps come and run it again? It would be a benefit to the town to have this up and running as a cafe with an art link if possible, but if we don't keep advertising it, we won't find anyone.
Okay, I've got Terry and then Vanessa. And then Adrian.
No, I don't want to speak.
Oh, sorry, Vanessa.
Are we back in the meeting now?
Sorry, yes, I think I was just going to say, should we put standing orders back in so that we can continue the meeting? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I also just want to say something. Is that okay? So, yeah, do we have to do anything to bring us back to the meeting? No, okay. Yeah, so I mean, the reason why I mentioned obviously the Melksham News is because it's all very good and well for us to obviously want to talk about what we can do or what the possibilities are for the Art House Cafe, but obviously we've still got a tenant there that we need to ensure that we're assisting as best as possible and getting them some reassurance in terms of that site. But yes, I absolutely agree with Councillor Wiltshire. What would be great is that if we could, as well as setting up obviously a working group to look at proposals, is to invite expressions of interest from, well, anyone really, groups or private individuals, or in terms of a business proposal for the Art House Cafe, so that we can make a really informed decision about what we could potentially do with that site.
Adrian, can I just say though, can I just ask, is the upper parts of that space separately accessible? Joe? No, okay. So we need to think carefully about who goes in on the ground floor and how that could work with a separate tenant upstairs.
Yeah.
Adrian?
Yeah.
Hi, yeah, I'm going to. We had this discussion on September the 14th, and it's now October the 22nd. We haven't moved forward. I think John and I both said on September the 14th that it would make the most amazing community hub with a cafe that would return money in. It would be right in the centre. We are desperate for a community hub. We really are. There are so many organisations that need help and support at the moment. You've got, I know that the TIC are interested in going in as well.
No.
But no, they're not. Okay, all right. They were interested. You might not be interested in going in, but still have a presence there, can't you? It needs to be a community-led proposition, not a business proposition. It's got, this is obviously my views. It needs to be community-led. Rotary was community-led. Rotary made money to go to charity. I don't want to see another cafe coming in when we've got cafe after cafe after cafe in the town, and they are all competing with one another. This needs to be a community project, whether or not it's a charitable event, which then supports the people of Melksham and supports what is needed in order to help the organisations that need help and support at the moment. So I don't believe that we should be looking for expressions of interest, except from charitable or the council. I don't believe we should be looking for a business proposition at all.
Okay, John.
I do disagree with you.
I fully agree with that. This is our golden opportunity to turn the dream of this council for 4 or 5 years into a reality in an affordable manner. And the thing that blew it out of the water before was the cost of being able to do that. I think there's a real chance here for us to be able to create a fantastic asset for our town. Absolutely what we as a council should be doing. Personally speaking, I think actually this should be a facility run by the council. I think, the risk of a charitable group running it is that it becomes a base for that charitable group. And I think it ought to be an asset that all charitable groups could be able to take advantage of and utilise resources from. Councillor Payne has spoken before about having in the hub the facilities for any charitable group to be able to come in and do printing or use internet facilities or photocopying or whatever. And I think that's the sort of thing this council could make available for groups across the community area to be able to benefit from. It would be low cost for us to be able to do because we've already got the premises, and it would be high impact for the community. So I couldn't support putting this out for outside bodies to bid for. I'd just like to see the town get a community hub up and running in now.
Okay, I have Vanessa and then Sue.
Can I put a resolution afterwards, please?
Yeah, sorry, mine was just a bit of amendment. I didn't, when I said business proposition, I didn't mean business. I meant I'd just like to get expressions of interest from any particular community groups to see who might be able to utilize the facility. And like what John was saying, it's great that we'll have a hub, or if it does go ahead, but it'd be great to also know who might be interested and what groups in the area might be interested in utilizing the facilities that we might have as well. So that would be really, really interesting. And I know that the Melksham seniors were wanting to do a bit of work around things like having internet access for people who don't have any kind of internet access at home. So this could be something that, again, the town council facilitates as well.
Okay, Sue.
I'm getting a bit confused about what people are wanting from this, whether it is a hub where various organisations meet up on various days and perhaps rotate a rota or something like that, or whether we're going to provide teas and coffees as Vanessa says, for people to come in, people who are isolated. So my thoughts were, I've been inside the Art House Cafe and I don't feel it's a very big area. So I don't know quite how we're going to be very fair to all the organisations that could want to some time in there. I know that's probably a discussion for further down the road, but I just feel, is it big enough for what other people have suggested?
Okay, thank you. I see how that might work as a community hub. That's a good discussion for a working group. But I think in order to get this moving, in my view, we need to approach the local firm of chartered surveyors and ask them about how we ought to go ahead about, basically we need to take a surrender of the current lease of the Art House Cafe from Ian Drew, I think is the lessee, and grant them a new tenancy of the upper parts. Now, they also have a lease at 31 Marketplace, and I think that there was some quite significant dilapidations identified from the last report. So I think that all needs to go to a firm of chartered surveyors to advise the council how we should go about negotiating with Mr. Drew a surrender, and how we might perhaps take a surrender of both leases and sort out a new arrangement. And certainly looking forward to a potential redevelopment of the Assembly Hall, I actually see where the Art House Cafe is as being a fantastic entrance into the Assembly Hall at the back. So I don't think we ought to be necessarily making long-term plans at this stage. Adrian.
I would like to put a resolution, which I think we actually had on September the 14th anyway, which I think John put on September the 14th, which was that we form a working party of the council and we look at the potential of using the Art House Cafe for a community hub. It doesn't negate anything that you've just said about needing to look at the lease. I totally agree with you. It also doesn't negate anything that might happen once we know what's going to happen to the Assembly Hall, etc. Because that is still, in my opinion, 4 or 5 years down the line. We've got 4 or 5 years life in the Art House Cafe. It's a really good place, and I would like this to put the council to have, my resolution is that this council forms a working group to look at turning the Art House Cafe into a community hub with a cafe facility with it.
Adrian, I think that's already been resolved. We resolved that on the 14th of September.
But we haven't moved any further forward.
But we need to be at a full council meeting in order to appoint the working group. So I don't think we can do anything.
We were going to do it via email. We have to accept that life is different under
okay.
At the moment.
All right. So that's something we could agree to do now. Linda, could we get a?
Okay, go on. Can I just say, I'm sure Roger Taylor at Headley's has already had the lease on the Min and studied it with all the dilapidations that have already been reported by the surveyor who did our building conditions survey. Roger Taylor can sort out the lease that you need to allow us just the Art House Cafe and Melksham Independent use to have the rest of the building that they want.
Sorry, can you just remind us who Roger Taylor is?
He's a town council solicitor.
Okay, because when I've asked for copies of the leases before, I've always been told there's only one lease. So does he have both those leases now?
I'm going to have to check. I'm going to have to check back. He's had it and he's made some comment. So the lease side can be sorted out with the town council solicitor, and the dilapidations, whose responsibility and what needs to be done and what we have to do. A community hub, I understand now, and I'm sorry if I didn't before, a community hub should be relatively easy to set up. It's not going to cost a lot. You've got the room. We've also got the Assembly Hall for if groups need to have some kind of, a meeting or any of their events eventually. We can liaise and do that. I would also suggest that it becomes the town council's information office as well, so that anyone who's got town council business they want to discuss, anything of Wiltshire Council, so that's the place to go to report any issues, find out what's going on in the town. And you can have officers sort of like in there as this sort of like reception, and the other areas can be used by lots of other groups for lots of other different reasons.
Yeah, no, I think you're describing what a community hub is. That's absolutely fine. I don't think any of us have got an issue with that. I've suggested we need to approach a local firm of chartered surveyors to provide us with advice on valuations, what rent should be payable, and negotiating stances.
Yeah.
And I don't think Roger Taylor can do that. He's a solicitor. He doesn't have the local knowledge. John, what did you want to say? You're muted.
Chair, I think one of the challenges here is we are merging together two quite disparate items. Can we separate out the negotiations with regards to lease and dilapidations and all the rest of it from the what do we do with the downstairs and the creation of a community hub? Because they are two separate issues, and I think that we're not progressing on one because we're waiting on the other, and we're not progressing on the other because we haven't made our minds up on the one. We made a decision back in September that we thought it would be a great idea for this to be a community hub. We can get going on a working group to talk about what that hub will be, what shape that could be, how that could work. It doesn't mean we implement it tomorrow, but we know what we want to do and we can start planning that. So when we're able to implement it, we can just get on with it. That can be an entirely separate item to the one that we need to do on dealing with the lease and dealing with those dilapidations. And I think what we just need to do is resolve to say to the clerk, this is a job of work that needs doing. Can you go away and make sure it's done? Negotiate with the tenant and report back to us for council to either agree or disagree with what's come up with. So I'm going to propose that, if I can, please, Chair.
Well, I disagree, actually, John. I think we need to deal with both elements tonight. In terms of moving forward with a community hub, I think, and the working group, I think that's pretty easy. We asked Linda to email all the councillors and ask who wants to be in a working group, and then we can get meetings going and start moving forward with that. I don't think we even need to make a resolution about that tonight, do we, Linda? You can just get on and do that.
I think I would feel safer if there was a resolution from this committee telling me to sort out the lease and the dilapidations.
Yeah, well, that's a separate issue. So in terms of setting up the working group, can you just email all the councillors asking them who wants to be on the working group, and let's get some meetings going? Can you do that?
It's not without, I need either a resolution or council needs to appoint a working group, really. It's not for me to set up a working group. And
I did put a resolution forward, but it's only a resolution that was also a resolution on September the 14th.
Yeah, it's the same resolution which has already been resolved.
In fairness, Linda wasn't there on September the 14th. No. I'm happy to put it as a resolution again. I'm sure John will second it again.
But wait, we're not getting anywhere, are we? Because we can't appoint a working group until the next full council. So it needs to go on the agenda for the next full council. We can't do anything tonight.
The committee can have a working group. It's a working group of this committee.
This committee could set one up.
Yeah.
I
mean, we don't have to do that. We don't need to pass another resolution tonight. We've already passed that resolution. So we can, let's get on with that. Let's move on to the next bit, which is the lease. And I've moved a resolution, and I'm wondering if someone might want to second it. That we asked seconded. Are you seconding it, Vanessa?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to go to a vote on that because
I'm allowed to move my motion, Tony.
And you've moved it, and it's been seconded, but I'm not going to a vote on that yet because I'm confused. Just now, I asked Linda if she was able to email the councillors to ask who wants to be on the working group, and Linda's reply was she didn't feel she could do that without a resolution full council.
Or this. It depends if this committee wants to be the one that oversees the working group, be the parent of it. To me, it makes sense it's asset management, but
can we just do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the resolution then, if I've got this right, John, is that this committee forms a working group to consider The use.
That's not what.
That resolution was passed back in September. We've agreed
Yeah.
that was passed in September, and Linda can just form that now. The resolution I was moving was that this committee instructs the clerk to take on the necessary professionals to be able to negotiate the lease with Melksham News, to negotiate that lease and bring back a report to this committee for us to say yay or nay to, with regards to the lease, the dilapidations, and the way forward.
Right. Okay. Okay. So, and is that seconded by Vanessa?
Yes, please.
But again, Linda, I still think you need to go and speak to the local firm of chartered surveyors to get that advice. So are we happy that this resolution includes
the necessary advice the council needs on this? Yeah.
Okay.
That's what the resolution says, Tony.
Okay, that's fine. Can I see a show of hands in favour of that resolution, please? Yeah, that motion. Thank you very much. Okay.
Before we leave this item, can we just find out who from this committee wants to sit on this working party? Because then we can get going.
Yeah, you can set it up now if you
If that's what I meant. Yeah.
Can we do it now? Can we just do it now? Who wants to be on the working group?
Okay, the hands I'm seeing is...
willing volunteers for a change.
I'll call them out for you. Jeff, John, Vanessa,
Yeah.
Adrienne,
Yeah.
Pat,
Yeah.
Mike,
Yeah.
and Terry.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Right, on to the next item.
Got a resolution. So we better have a proposal and a resolution and a seconder and do it properly.
So we actually need a resolution that those people the names of which I've just called out are...
And when do you want to meet? Because if you don't make a meeting, have you got dates, ideas? Otherwise it just rolls on. If we don't get a meeting set up, we might
As possible.
Can I suggest that we try and tag it on to the end of what we think would be a shorter council meeting, maybe ECDEV or something, so we can move from one to the other, because it's going to be challenging for daytime meetings for some members.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I'll look at a meeting. Well, I can't predict how long a meeting's going to be, but yeah.
But John is right. I mean, economic development doesn't last usually that long.
So, for instance, we got ECDEV next Tuesday.
Yeah.
We do it then. I mean, I won't have got very far with my bit of it.
But this working group's to talk about the community hub.
Yeah, be a good idea to put some ideas in the pot. Yeah.
I think so.
So.
Okay, good. I think we've made progress on it. On to the Art House Cafe. Item 12, Art House Cafe work to discuss the electrical and meter work proposed at the meeting on 17th February. I wasn't there. Would anyone like to speak to
we suspend undertaking any electrical improvements in the Art House Cafe until such time as we've determined what its future is going to hold. The electrical works are not required for the upstairs. They are purely because they wanted to put in a new kitchen.
Yeah.
So I don't see. I just move. We suspend all works.
Yeah.
I'll second that, John.
Yeah, I'll second that. Yeah.
Okay. Pat, did you want to say something? You want to be a seconder as well? There's three of us then.
Well,
okay. Can I see a show of hands in favour of that motion?
I was so popular here.
Okay, that's unanimous, definitely. Okay, moving on. Exciting stuff. The Spiritualist Garden, item 13. To note that at the meeting on the 14th September, it was agreed to submit a brief by the local assistant clerk outlining the town council's concerns regarding the adoption of the Spiritualist Garden. Have we got an update on that?
Yeah, Jeff has done that, and I believe he circulated that report. No? Right, I'll circulate tomorrow. And it's with Wellers Headley at the moment with Roger Taylor.
Okay.
Jeff's report is really good. It highlights all the issues that we've got and the things that as a council we need to be satisfied before we move ahead with it. So.
Okay, David, you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you very much. My echoes have diminished, so apologies for earlier. Councillors, you'll find the report that Linda refers to on the reports pack for the full council meeting on the 14th of September. So it's already been circulated. It was approved at that meeting.
Oh, right.
So you'll find it if you just go back into that report pack.
Yeah, I'll circulate it again if it's easier tomorrow.
Okay, so this is really just to note that something we've already actually looked at. Adrian.
Yeah, so because I thought on the 14th of September we accepted that as long as it went to a solicitor to get some more information. Am I not right on that? So is that an addition to what Jeff did on the 14th of September, or has that not yet been achieved?
David, what did you want to say?
Yeah, the report that went to council on the 14th of September that members reviewed and approved. You're quite right that there was some further investigations required, and those investigations are underway. And I would anticipate having a report to take to full council, which was, I believe, the request at the November meeting. And yeah, if there's, provided there's no hiccups, I would anticipate you'll be in a position to make a decision.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. Okay, on to item 14. So Councillor Welsh, I suppose, is going to tell us about the telephone boxes. If she turns her microphone on.
Yes. I can't really report any thing further forward with it. I understand we have approached both the veterinary and the pub for the one on the Little John, but yeah, Pat has something to contribute to this one. Do you want to come in now, Pat?
Yeah, only to say that was right at the beginning of the year, so I think I'd better start that again, because obviously I've heard nothing back and haven't chased it up, so we'll start that again. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Pat. And for the other one, I don't know there were any further forward with this. Bloom has diminished in numbers. We seem to have, there's only probably about 2 people working on it, because we've got 2 or 3 people who work full time, and we've got one of our stalwarts is actually having to isolate because her bubble has cancer in it. So there's really only just myself and various people who can fit in at any time. So I think that's an ongoing project rather than coming to any fruition at the moment. Sorry about that.
Okay, Sue, I'll come to you in a moment. Linda, you wanted to say something?
It's just a suggestion. The Spa Road telephone box, that would be a really nice project for Taylor, our business admin apprentice, to take on. That was anyhow in conjunction with Bloom, it's just a thought.
Sounds like a good one.
Okay, Sue?
Yes, I was on the understanding that Bloom were taking over these telephone boxes. Was it 2 or 3? 3. Anyway, just 2. Right. Okay. And when I looked at the agenda, it said it referred to an email, an update about Little John Avenue. So I didn't know whether there'd been some ASBO activity down there or whatever. So what we're saying is, Terry's already said, Bloom has diminished. The telephone boxes, presumably nothing much is happening with them at the moment. What would we like to happen? Can we use them for promotion? I noticed the word sponsorship. What sort of sponsorship would we be considering? Because I've got a couple of ideas. Not that I'd make any money out of it, so I didn't declare an interest. But is that what we want to do? Find a sponsor who will take them over from the council? I'm not quite sure where we are with it.
Terry, did you want to just respond to that? How you see this working with the telephone boxes and Bloom?
I think Vanessa wants to come in here to add something to it.
Okay, Vanessa.
Yeah, thank you. I think just sort of just clarifying what Terry was trying to say, you know, she used the word diminish. Things are obviously just a little difficult at the moment because a lot of the Bloom volunteers have to self-isolate and just be very careful. We're also coming into the winter now, so, you know, it sort of slows things down. But I think what we wanted to look at was, you know, obviously various different options, because there's so many things you can do with these boxes. But I think probably in the meantime, what we might look at doing, if it's all right with Terry and everyone else really, is just look at cleaning them up, giving them a clean, giving them a paint, you know, just because you can get I think BT can actually provide paint packs specific for these old telephone boxes, where, you know, you just basically give them a clean and do them yourself, like what we did with the one in the marketplace. And so at least that will brighten them up a little bit, and we'll clean them as best as we can. But then, you know, potentially the various ideas out there, they're just endless. So I don't know if that's something that Taylor would be interested in looking at, you know, alongside Bloom, to be able to come up with some ideas. But we could at least just clean them up in the meantime. I'm not sure about how quickly we'd be able to get them painted before winter sets in. That might be a bit tricky, but we'll see how we go. Terry,
John,
what do you think?
Yeah, I'd like the inclusion of Taylor to do the work, because I think it's the time factor that we all find difficult. So if Taylor could take this on as a project, it would be beneficial.
Okay, John, I'll come to you in a second. Linda, can I just check? Have we actually formally, Melksham Town Council, taken over ownership of the telephone boxes?
Yeah, we've put in the pound that you have to give, and there's some like lease that you have to enter. Yeah.
But has that documentation been completed?
I would have thought it had come in while I was away.
Okay, and
it's just a formality, I believe.
do we need to enter into any sort of agreement with Bloom, or is this just a an informal arrangement whereby Bloom, you know, maintains the telephone boxes on behalf of the town council?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose a letter of agreement or something would be useful, but I'm just trying. What are we going to do with them? Are they going to be used for anything? Or
well, this is, I think, what Taylor can look at, because I mean, it can be used for anything. You can put flowers in them. You can use them as little libraries. This information booth, defibrillators. There's so many ideas, and actually, it might be a really good community engagement project as well, to be, you know, go out to the public and you know, have them submit ideas as well. The ideas are endless, but I think John's had his hand up long enough.
Yeah, John, carry on.
Yeah, I just want to absolutely clarify, because when I read it in the agenda, I wasn't sure from the paragraph with the one on Spa Road, and the conversation this evening has gone in a different direction to what I think this sort of hinted at. So I wanted to understand the one on Spa Road. From the agenda, I read into that we were looking for someone else to take over and look after that telephone box. But are we saying actually it will be Bloom running that telephone box? Because it's not clear from that. And on the basis of it looked like they were looking for someone else to run that telephone box. Just one suggestion I wanted to throw into the mix was that it's absolutely on the walk to school route there. And I think it could be an exciting opportunity to be able to use that as a little information hub to have stuff in for young people. And maybe even allow them display of artwork by young people in their information point for young people. It's close enough to Canberra. I was talking to someone who understands these things. Close enough to Canberra that we might be able to put a laser link to our Wi-Fi there, something on the roof, so that it could actually be a little mobile Wi-Fi hotspot that they could use as well if we wanted. John, right by the children's centre as well, so information from them could go there as well.
John, are you saying that that your group might be interested in actually taking over this telephone box for your?
I think we could make it. I mean, I'd want to clarify with if the council was interested in us putting forward a proposal, I'd want to talk with some of our young people about them actually agreeing to take on some of the work. But I think that it's something that we could do. Yes, I think it would be a nice little sort of information point for all things that young people, children and young people in the community could gain access to stuff from.
Terry.
I think that is an absolutely brilliant thought, because there's far more young people than there are older people, or at least older bloomers and things. And it is very much what is necessary is because although Canberra is brilliant, there are still an awful lot of people who don't access the services there. So that could be as a general information point, and maybe point other non-users towards Canberra. So it's a win-win all over.
Adrian.
I absolutely love the idea as well, as long as we include, and John has already mentioned it, you know, the fact that there is the children's centre there as well. I think it could be, you know, from pregnancy through to, you know, through to older teens. I think it's an absolutely fabulous idea. I think there's a lot of people who don't know where to get information from, and you know, it's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously telephone boxes are in the news at the moment with what happened at Urchfont, and I think to allow our young people to use it with information would be absolutely amazing. Fabulous.
Vanessa.
I was just going to say, so I mean, obviously all these ideas are brilliant, but is everybody happy for me to get in touch with BT to at least organise for some paint packs so that we can at least clean them up so they look nice and neat and clean?
Can we not let Taylor do that? I think it'd be really nice for Taylor to do that.
All she has to do is just contact BT and just say, we want to clean up the post boxes, the telephone boxes in town, and they'll send out a pack per one. And you know, it's got everything in there that you need to clean it up. So you know, if we can at least get it nice and clean and neat, and then Taylor can start working on. And I think John's right. You know, we have to look at the locations of these two boxes. You've got one in Little John, and so the one around there, we probably need to look at ideas that are going to be appropriate for the residents in that area. So that's where, again, perhaps you know, different ideas might come up. But if we can at least get it clean, is that okay? I mean, I don't want to tell Taylor what to do, but if she can just contact BT and we can get working groups together to just get the painting sorted.
Okay, where do we go from here? Is it that Taylor should contact Terry and Vanessa in regard to Little John Avenue, and perhaps John in relation to Spa Road to kind of move forward with for ideas with for these boxes?
I don't think we should name Taylor. We just asked the resolution should be.
I'll speak with Taylor and discuss what you've said tonight, and then she'll be in touch if she needs any guidance from either group. Do
you need a resolution, Linda, or are you happy to do that?
That's fine. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
Just if I could, just one quick bit of caution, I guess, in regards to potential costs. Now, the paint and that is free, but if when we go and have a closer inspection, we realise that there's, you know, little plastic panes that are broken, if we're going to look at replacing it and fixing it up really nicely so that it's weatherproof, we may need to look at, you know, some actual remedial work that we might have to pay for. But that might come down, you know, later down the track. But just a word of caution that there could be. Obviously, I haven't seen them up close, so I don't know the true state of both of the boxes.
Okay, I think we're done on that item, unless anyone else wants to say anything. No? Okay, let's move on to 15, Environment and Climate Working Group. Okay, there's an extra item to add onto this, which isn't in the agenda pack, which we need to ratify the external members of the group, the working group. So those, we've got 4 external members: Michael Saunders, Shirley McCarthy, and Ian and Jill Cardy. But really, only one of those was invited. So I think, although they both attend the meetings, of course, we haven't had one since probably February, I think they should only have sort of one vote between them. So I'd like to propose that we ratify, formally ratify those as external members of the Environment and Climate Working Group. Does anyone want to say anything on that, or can I have a seconder for that?
So I would like to ask Linda, our clerk, to come in and give us some legal advice on that. Linda, I'm not 100% certain that I understand the legalities of it.
You can appoint external members onto a working group, and it is in the generic terms of reference. But how many people are on the Environment and Climate Working Group? How many members have we got? Town councillors, I'm meaning.
It's been so long since we've had a meeting. I think there's 5.
Right, as long as the external members don't outnumber town council members, so yeah, that should be all right. But I think 3 is more than enough external members.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we have this item because this was missed in the past, that the external members that have been attending the working group since, I think, last December, possibly even last November, should have been ratified previously. So this is just being done now on Linda's advice.
I don't have a problem with the ratification whatsoever. It was the voting rights. I wasn't sure of the voting rights vis-a-vis external members and internal members, and how that worked. That was my only concern, Tony.
Okay, well,
the working group, they obviously can't make any decisions on behalf of the council. That certainly can't approve the expenditure. What would happen is anything that was agreed by the group would come to asset management.
Yes, it's a working group. All the working group can do is make recommendations to this committee. So it's just about, we discuss various matters relating to the environment and climate, and we vote on which ones we think ought to be presented to this committee. So
my view is, though, why would you go along to a committee unless you've got a vote? And I'm accepting what you're saying now, Linda, is the fact it's only a recommendation. Therefore, I'm happy with that. But if you were suggesting that they should only have one vote between them, and I'm not happy with that. I think if you're going to go to a committee and you're going to put a recommendation, and it's only a recommendation, surely everybody who goes should have a vote.
No, it's just in relation to Ian and Jill Cardy. I think one of them was invited to attend, but they both always turn up, and 4 external members.
So what you're actually asking us to do is to actually choose whether or not we have Ian or Jill. So we have Shirley McCarthy, Mike Saunders, and Ian Cardy.
Well, it's just that when they attend meetings, the chair simply reminds them that although they're both there and they can both speak and they can both make points, when it comes to a vote, only one of them should be voting. That's what I'm suggesting.
I don't know. I think sorry, I'm thinking out loud and it's not coming out very clearly, but my view is yes, okay. So anybody can go along. I mean, I could turn up and I'm not on it, or Nick could turn up and he's not on it, but he can talk, but he can't vote because he's not one of the named representatives, basically is what we're saying. So we have 3 named representatives.
I think so. John, what do you have to say?
I think we've got to remember this is a working group. This group cannot be making any decisions, and I fear we'll end up being in a position where we spend more time talking about both now and actually when your working group tries to meet, arguing about the composition of the group than it actually does getting on with the business that needs to be done. The benefit of working groups is that you're able to discuss stuff in detail, and almost always decisions are made by consensus, not by vote anyway. Votes aren't really a key feature of working groups, because working groups are talking around items, putting together options to come back to council or for the parent committee, and for that committee to be actually the one that's making the decisions. So my personal opinion is I have deep reservations about saying that two people who come to a meeting just because they're married, only one of them is allowed to participate in terms of decision making. I think that if they've got the interest to turn up and they're participating productively, then they should be allowed to participate productively. I don't actually see the damage that can be done because nobody is making decisions in these meetings. And I hope what we're not getting coming out of this working group is a decision to only present one option back to the parent committee when it's looking at how it goes about something. The working group's job is to dig into detail into options and bring those back for an informed decision to be made by the parent committee or by full council. So I'm afraid I couldn't support only giving the vote to one of the two of them.
So the problem is, well, with a working group, I think we need to be very careful if, for whatever reason, the external members outnumber the members on that working group, which and just, you know, for whatever reason, something might get pushed through. Okay, it's going to be decided by this committee, but do we want something to come to this committee where maybe the members on that working group had alternative views to the external members, but were outvoted by them? John?
But with the greatest of respect, I think that's the advantage of being able to talk to external members. They're not making the decisions for us, they're advising us. Can I remind you all that on Monday, we're going to be having a meeting to adopt the neighbourhood plan. The neighbourhood plan has been put together by a steering group that is heavily numbered greater of non-council members than council members, because it's pulled together people with knowledge and expertise from across the community in order to put it together. And I thought the benefit of having it was a few meetings ago that David presented his proposal for us for a working group for the Avon Enterprise Park and down there. Again, that group heavily more external members than council members. That's the advantage of being able to talk to people outside. We can take their expertise and knowledge, but then remake the decision based on the recommendations that they make. So Linda, I'm really not scared about...
Okay, John. Okay, I think you've made the point. Linda, I mean, I've proposed this because you were quite firm in your view that the numbers of external members should be limited. So how do you respond to John?
Because this is a working group of the council, and my only concern was that you end up where you've got more people from outside the organisation than inside it. Neighbourhood plan's slightly different because of how that's governed by statute and legislation, and it has to be. The steering group has to be made up that way, but all decisions come back to council. I was just concerned that there were more members from the outside than from external than...
I mean, that's actually never been the case, Linda. Right. Although, of course, at an individual meeting, in fact, we generally, at the Environment and Climate Working Group meetings, we get a pretty poor turnout of members. So usually on the night, there are more external members than members. Can I cut this short because we could go on for a long time? Can I revise that and suggest those 4 people that I've mentioned, Mike Saunders, Ian Angel Cardy and Shirley McCarthy, all get a vote at the working group meetings? Everyone happy? Yep. I'm proposing it. John seconded it. Let's see a vote. Show of hands. Thank you. That looks unanimous. Thank you. Okay. So the next item is town centre tree planting. To request, so this was a proposal then made by the working group to request the town clerk investigate the town if the town council is capable of seeking utilities, services, location information for the Church Street area from the various utility companies. So this is the 3 trees which are in big pots next to the public loos on the way into Church Street car park. They're not doing very well in their big pots, and they really need to go in the ground if they're to survive and thrive. So we've been told by Wiltshire Council they're not prepared to discuss tree planting with parish councils. Although actually I looked at that the other day and I'm not sure it was quite as black and white as we first thought. Anyway, we thought in order to at least get moving on this, can we see if it's possible to plant these trees in in suitable locations by checking if there's any services in the area. So yeah, basically, can we ask the town clerk if she's able to carry out these searches herself, i.e. is the town council able to seek services locations from the various utility companies? So that was what was proposed on that. So are we happy then to ask Linda if she's able to carry out those searches for services locations? Anyone want to speak?
Can I just clarify? I thought we were told before that Highways wouldn't let us actually plant trees in the ground on highways. Have we had something definitive back from them that said they are prepared to negotiate this now? Because I'm just concerned that we're going to create a lot of work. We're going to spend money on having surveys done and all the rest of it, only to be told we still can't do this. And I just wonder, well, hang on, Tony, I'm just wondering if a way forward on this is actually to refer it through to something like CAT-G and ask through a formal route for an answer to come back about whether we can explore this and go down this route or not. Because I just worry otherwise it's going to bounce backwards and forwards between authorities, and however much we might want to do something, if the principal authority who effectively own the land say you can't, we're not ever going to move it forward, are we?
Yes, I want to dig out what was said to us when we raised this back in about last October, when we approached Wiltshire, and we got a response from them, which, depending on how you read it, is either definitely we're not talking to you or possibly, and I think we need to review that on this. Adrian, what do you have to say?
I think sending it to CAT-G is the most obvious thing that there is, actually, because they will make the definitive statements as to whether or not it can or can't be done. And there's, once we've got a definitive statement, Tony, rather than one that I accept could be looked at either way, then we can ask our officers to look at it. But let's ask CAT-G first. That's the organisation that we should be asking first. And sort it out from there. I'll second John if he's recommending.
And what are we going to be asking them?
I think
sorry, John.
Planting. Yeah, we'll ask them that the town council wants to look to relocate trees from pots into the ground, is that a project that would be viable and the Highways Department would be supportive of? And
okay, so we'll be very specific on the locations where we want to plant these trees.
Why don't we start with those ones, because that sets a precedent?
Yeah. Okay. So that's the proposal from John. I think Adrian seconded it, that we send a plan of our proposed tree locations to CAT-G, seeking there. What do we actually seek them? Is it possible to plant trees here?
Yeah.
Okay, can I see a show of hands in favour of that, please? Okay, that's unanimous. I'll get that plan to you, Linda. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Urban Tree Fund. Okay, the government a year or so ago, promised quite a significant sum of money. It's a lot of money, millions of pounds, to local organisations for planting trees in the ground. Now, Melksham Town has very few locations where we can plant trees in the ground. So we were looking about to see where we might be able to plant trees, and I'm going to try and share my my screen. So I've got two screens. It might go horribly wrong. So let's host disabled participant screen sharing. I can't do that. Okay. Okay, let's not do that. This was two pieces of land. One is on the path from the Adventure Centre up the side of the river towards the bridge. There's a piece of land on the right-hand side of that, which I think is owned by Cooper Avon Tyres and leased to a farmer. And the proposal is, you know, this would be a good place to plant trees. So can we approach the landowner to ask if they'd be happy to either give us the land or a piece of that land to plant trees, or possibly alternatively, wouldn't they mind planting trees themselves? And the other piece of land is at the back of the big electricity substation on the big roundabout. There's a piece of land there between the back of the substation and the river and the Avon Enterprise, Avon, whatever it is, place. And again, that's a big piece of land there, which I think was used as the Avon Tyres recreation ground or something many years ago. And again, that's just mowed by somebody on a regular basis. A big piece of land. Are the owners prepared to give it to us or plant trees themselves? So the request is, can we ask the town clerk to approach the landowners in that way? Richard.
The site you've just mentioned that behind the substation is actually, I think, the old Avon Ladies Hockey Club field. So it has a...
That's a new one on me.
It has a
I've heard it described as many different things, but not that.
Yes, it has a sporting connection, obviously, but
yeah,
it would be ideal for a tree planting scheme.
Okay, so are we happy to ask the town clerk to approach the landowners to see if they're prepared to give us any of that land for tree planting, or perhaps alternatively to plant trees themselves? Adrian.
I have no issues with asking Linda to write a letter like that. I'm just a little bit concerned about the Cooper Tyres site, because the Cooper, if it's where I think it is and it's leased to a farmer, it's not going to be a yes, is it? Because it's leased, you know, I mean, there will be a legal lease, and the legal lease will say he grows crops on it. If it was a piece of land which Cooper Tyres owned, which I can think of one, which is on the roundabout by Rivermead School, which is scrub land and it doesn't do anything, they might say yes, but they're not going to say yes if they already lease it to a farmer. I mean, there's no harm in Linda writing, but we know it'll come back no.
No, but what it might do is put them on notice that, you know, if as things change in the coming years, that this is something they might be able to do with this piece of land. You know, we don't know how long that tenancy is to the farmer. It might only be for 18 months or whatever. We don't know.
No, it's I'm sorry, he's got it on a long lease. He's got loads and loads of bits of land around Melksham. Everybody knows who we're talking about. But why not look at the bit of land which is up by the double roundabout on Lowbourne, which is scrubland, and it's owned by Cooper Tyres. They're hanging on to it because obviously they want it for future investment, but it's a piece of land which is there and available, and they're much more likely to say, yes, you can put some trees on it, than they are to say, yes, you can put some trees on a land which we lease to a farmer.
Okay,
You know?
well, that's great. That's a fantastic idea, Adrian. Can I just go to Pat before coming back to that?
Yeah, Adrian, that piece of land along by the river floods regularly anyway, doesn't it? And the reason that's the reason there's growing, that maize is being grown on it, is because it doesn't affect the maize or something, or I don't know. But anyway, it's one of the few crops that survives it. But yeah, the piece of land you're talking about is where they've just rebuilt the wall, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would be great. And I can't see much happening with that over the next few years. But yeah, I would support that, Tony.
Okay, so Adrian, if you could identify that piece of land for Linda. So are we happy then with a slightly amended proposal that in relation to the land at the back of the substation, Linda approaches those landowners as we discussed, and rather than the piece of land near the Adventure Centre, instead of that, we ask about the piece of land that Adrian has mentioned. Okay, well, I'll propose that. Have I got a seconder? Adrian? Okay, can I see a show of hands? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, third item on this is the wildflower area. I think this is, bear in mind, this was back in February we discussed this, and it's, you know, it's a long time ago and things have moved on. So I think there is already a proposal for wildflower planting in the sensory garden. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry.
So,
yes. Yeah.
So
yes.
I think we can forget that one then, because
Yeah.
it's already covered.
And the bulbs have been bought, actually, thousands of them, which are due to be planted
Okay.
in the next couple of weeks and months.
Okay, let's move on then. Allotments. So the proposal from the Environment and Climate Working Group is that we change the allotment agreement for the year commencing 1st of March 2021 to prohibit allotment holders from using any, should say, chemical herbicides, insecticides, pesticides, or fungicides. Vanessa.
Yeah, I was actually just going to say that as well. It should say chemical because I don't think there's anything wrong with using organic type things. But yeah, I mean, we've been asking for this for as long as I can remember, which is at least a couple of years now. So I'd like to, I don't know who's proposing it, but if it's been proposed from the working group, then I'd like to second it.
What I would like to say is, you know, because we've lost quite a lot of time, and are we giving the allotment holders sufficient notice if we, you know, if we agree this tonight and Linda or the town clerk writes to the allotment holders in the next few weeks, are we giving them enough notice? Because it's only, you know, it's six months or so. Should we give them more notice?
I think it'll be enough. The only time you have to give a year's notice is if you're going to increase the allotment rent.
Yes, but it's going to be a bit of a shock for a lot of people that have been, you know, managing their allotments using sprays and whatever for a long time, and I can quite see that some allotment holders will be up in arms and some will threaten to give up and some will give up. What was discussed at the working group is that we provide advice to allotment holders about other methods, more eco-friendly methods of controlling pests and etc. And some of the working group members were volunteered to meet with allotment holders to discuss alternative approaches, and that could be arranged through the officers, through the town clerk. I'm a bit concerned about the wording it towards the end of that, where it talks about educating them. I wouldn't use that terminology. That wasn't the terminology used in the meeting. You know, it's about giving advice for non-chemical approaches.
Advising them.
Yeah, advising them. Yeah. So that's the proposal. Would anyone care to second that, or you know, do I hear some? Mike, what do you have to say on this?
I was just offering to second that for you.
Okay, Mike, that's great. So we don't have any dissenters on this. So the proposal is that the town clerk writes to the allotment holders, advising them as soon as possible that we will be changing the allotment agreement from 1st of March next year to effectively ban the use of chemical herbicides, insecticides, pesticides, and fungicides. I propose that. Mike seconded. Can I see a show of hands, please? Okay, unanimous. Fantastic. Okay, moving on to item 16, CCTV. I'm not sure who's going to be speaking to this item.
Chair, if I may.
David, yeah.
It's been agreed by council to establish a CCTV working group, but at the council meeting where this was resolved, a decision was deferred as to the membership of that group, and that's something that we need in order to progress to the first meeting. What I can tell the meeting is that Wiltshire Police and the area board are keen to see some progress on this. So as soon as we have some working group members, then we can move forward. One of the things that I have done in the interim, depending on the type of CCTV which is proposed, but a lot of them these days, the cameras are powered by local Wi-Fi, and that gives a lot of flexibility as to where they can be mounted.
David, sorry, can I stop you for a moment? I've just got to rush out and help Amanda. Vanessa, could you take over a chair just for a few minutes, please? Thank you.
Lovely. Sorry, David, if you'd like to continue.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Yeah, so the issue of Wi-Fi, if we want to use Wi-Fi to power the cameras, there is an issue about the Wi-Fi capacity, the broadband capacity in the town centre to power systems like this and public Wi-Fi systems too. So I just wanted to flag that up as an emerging issue. There are solutions out there, and what I would like to flag up is that I could see the potential for certain projects coming together. Most of them would need approval by council to take forward, but potentially public Wi-Fi and CCTV could work very well together.
Don't know why I'm putting my hand up. Thank you, David. Yes, and what David's just mentioned there is something that I raised was a few months ago now as a potential motion to bring to council, which is to make the Melksham Marketplace a Wi-Fi hub for public Wi-Fi. And David's been kindly just doing a bit of research on that, so he does know what he's talking about. And yeah, that would be amazing. I mean, if we've got to sort of ramp things up a little bit in the town centre to ensure that we've got good CCTV, and we've also got the capacity to add some public Wi-Fi, that could be a great win for everybody in Melksham. Adrienne.
I know it goes back a very long time to February of this year, but we did actually call a meeting. A list was made. Councillors did say if they were interested. Now, I do understand that people may have changed their minds by now, but all that is public knowledge and should be there on emails, etc., etc. I certainly know that Clive put his name forward, Pat put a name forward, I put my name forward. Those are three off the top of my head. Jeff, you did as well, did you? And also, I sent a long list of people to the assistant to the town clerk who were invited to the very first meeting. I'm sure a little interrogation of emails in February would actually find that information up. Again, if it's a subcommittee of councillors, a quick email out to all councillors will tell you if people want to, do you want to be on this? Reply by tomorrow, and it's a yes or a no, isn't it? We don't have to spend a long time waiting to go to the next full council meeting in November to get something going, which we've already cancelled 3 meetings because of COVID and other factors. Interrogate the emails from February. I'm sure you'll find all the information. Did any other councillor sitting in front of me say they wanted to be on CCTV? Vanessa, you did, didn't you?
I did. Yes, I did. Yeah. And I know that this is sort of starting to get quite urgent, and I'm not sure if anybody was aware or does remember a few months ago there was an incident at the town hall where there was a window that was broken, and the police did request the CCTV footage, but it was just so old that they couldn't make heads or tails of any facial recognition at all. So you know, there is definitely a need for it to be updated, in particular in the town centre. So we just need to get things moving. So Linda, how do we progress from here?
Well, like Adrian said, the meetings were all set up. Unfortunately, the one that was going to happen happened just as lockdown happened.
Oh yeah, it did. I accept that, Linda. You know, there's no criticisms.
No, I know that, but so I'm just saying, Adrian's right. There are members who have already said they want to be on that group, so we don't need to have another working group.
Okay, good.
The other thing as well is public Wi-Fi and CCTV. They have to be on different channels.
Yes.
And you can do CCTV with radio masts from tall buildings. So I'm just a little bit worried about public Wi-Fi and CCTV. We can't.
No. It's okay. I understand. So is it really just a matter of organising a meeting for as soon as we possibly can to get things moving?
Yeah, we just pick up where it was left before we went into that full lockdown.
And Linda, if you don't mind me asking, obviously before Tony takes back over as chair, CCTV sort of tie into the plans with KGV, and in particular with all the new equipment that's going in up the top near the splash pad. Were there any provisional plans in place to put CCTV in that area that we can combine?
There are already CCTV cameras around the pavilion, but
would there be more sort of extended out, you know, across the play area? Or
toilets, it's got CCTV set up. So what we'd need to do is look at extending the scheme so it covered all of King George Park. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Tony, can I hand it back over to you?
Thank you, Vanessa. Okay, so have we finished 16? Yep. Okay, let's move on to 17, Wessex Water Refill Unit. Who's speaking to this one? David?
Yeah, I'm not really quite sure, Chair, what members are looking for here. But at the recent council meeting at the end of September, it was resolved, I recall, that we put the Wessex Water Refill Unit on hold. Because of two things, you know, one, the difficulty in locating it at the front of the town hall in the area originally envisaged, because the nature of the marketplace construction would add additional cost. Admittedly, not a huge additional cost, but additional cost nevertheless. And also because a water refill unit would require touch every time you filled a bottle from it, and then it becomes a potentially a COVID hazard. And certainly talking to Devisers Council, who've had one installed recently, they're having to do a regular sanitization of it, which is a cost to them. But of course, the problem is you can sanitize it now, and an hour down the line, when 2 or 3 people have used it, it's potentially contaminated again. So the recommendation from the council meeting was to put that on hold for the time being. And in the meantime, look for the potential for another site and maybe a unit that we could install ourselves within the town council or from a local contractor. Now, I've had a look around. I've not managed to come across a unit yet that will provide greater COVID security.
Okay, David, thanks very much. Yeah, I think we ought to be aware that this is the first meeting of this committee for well over 6 months, and a lot of items have hit this agenda which perhaps aren't totally relevant.
Just to say that when you wash your hands in the ladies, you just put your hand underneath a water thing and it just comes out. You don't have to touch anything. Just, okay.
David?
Yeah, I understand from investigations we've made that on these particular Wessex Water units, it would be a touch. I know the type of I think it's some sort of infrared beam that you break with your hand and it pours the water out. But I understand these units are touch units, which did cause a degree of concern.
Yes, I think that whilst it sounds great that Wessex Water are providing these units at no cost to the council, actually it might be better for us to actually pay for our own unit, which is non-touch, and actually possibly where we could plumb it. Wessex Water want it at the front of the town hall, and maybe we should put ours somewhere where it's going to actually cost less to plumb it in. Okay, let's move on to item 18, film equipment. To receive a full business report from the Facilities Amenities Manager.
It was circulated.
Not with this agenda. I think, I certainly recall seeing that some time ago. So maybe this is an old item as well.
No, it's not. No, it's fairly recent. The report was circulated last week. Let me find it.
Who circulated it?
Me.
It's not on mod.gov, but
So with your email, 15th of October, 2 documents. So I can see that comes with a quote for £2,536.20. And sorry, did you have your hand raised then?
No, sorry, I'm just looking. Yeah, here it is.
So I can read the recommendation on that from that report from Tim. The facilities manager has requested the replacement of the CP750. What is that? As this has always provided a valuable addition to the variety of the assembly hall has to offer the community. So basically it's film equipment.
Chair?
Yes, John.
I'm sorry, I do remember that this came to the previous meeting and we said that we needed to have the proper report. It's not on the agenda. I can't, which email is this on? Because there's still not been the opportunity for us to be able to sort of, cogitate on this before the meeting.
Yeah.
I'm really concerned about making substantial decisions on the fly.
Right, it was sent out on the 15th of October and I gave the meeting invitation plus the condition survey report that was discussed at on the Assembly Hall. I just said that I published the asset manager agenda. Here's the Zoom meetings. A couple of reports are attached from Tim managers concerning 2 of the agenda items.
Right.
can't find it either.
John, can you? Well, I found it. John, have you got the opportunity to find that and give it a quick read through? Or do you think we should postpone it to the next meeting?
I am proposing postponing to the next meeting, but if you wish to go with it, go with it. But
well, there's no desperate hurry on this, is there? Because they're not going to be showing any films in the foreseeable future. So I suggest we postpone.
Okay.
Sorry, if I could, I think that they have been waiting a while for an answer for this one. You know, I mean, I understand obviously that we need to have a proper consideration about this, but you know, it looks as if this has already been on the cards for quite some time, and I'm not sure when we'd be able to bring it back very, very quickly to whether it's asset management or full council. I just wouldn't want to make them wait, you know, another 3-4 months to get an answer on this.
Okay.
I have found.
Can we, Luke?
Sorry, Chair. Just say I have found that report now. What this report still doesn't do, though, it tells us how much it will cost, and it tells us only one person we can buy it from. And it's what we need for Dolby surround sound, Dolby digital sound or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the question for me is, and we've and there's still no evidence in this to demonstrate yes or no. We've had discussions before about are we getting from all the cinema kit we've got in the Assembly Hall, is that actually a sound use of council money to have all of that there? And I remember there was discussions before that we were going to look at that, and I just wonder if, you know, we haven't yet had that discussion, have we? If we're saying that the cinema stuff in the Assembly Hall is financially viable, and that doesn't mean it makes a profit, because the return you get on it can be more than just financial return, then this clearly has to happen, I suspect. But I don't remember us yet having the debate where we make that decision or not. And I do know that Clark presented us a report a few meetings ago, saying the Assembly Hall was going to be producing a deficit of in excess of £100,000. And I'm just asking, are we throwing more good money potentially after bad in terms of the things we are doing there, rather than looking at what things will actually work better in there?
David, can we lose the screen sharing,
That's
please?
me. Sorry, I just wanted to...
Actually, can you roll it? I can't find it, Linda. Actually, can you roll it up so I can read? Or is that all of it?
No, all I'm doing is showing that there's only one quote, because that's the only quote that.
Yes, I was going to say.
So,
Chair, if I could, my understanding is that this is a broken piece of kit, and that we should obviously be making sure that all of our fixtures and fittings are in a good repair. And the facilities manager is basically saying, look, you can repair it, but it's just as expensive, so you may as well just buy a brand new one. So it's not as if we're looking at adding additional equipment. It's literally just repairing something that's good. But instead of repair,
doesn't this come within delegated spend anyway?
I would have thought so. If it's already a piece of kit that's already just broken, and we're not looking at adding any additional kit, then I'm not sure why it's even really coming to us.
I think that footnote is interesting as well, that Tim's saying that, you know, this can be used with social distancing. So in other words, you know, we can actually make use of the hall with this piece of kit.
I mean, I am aware that the seniors are desperate to get their film club started. And obviously there is a film going in on Halloween night, which has only got a couple of seats left. And the seniors do want to get it back in there. I mean, to say, Linda, is this not within delegated spend?
Well, if you read the recommendation, he says that the cinema equipment was donated to the town council, and there's never been any contingency built in to replace the equipment. That's not to say that there isn't any maintenance budget that we might be able to use to
used to have a fund.
Yeah, well, it said it may be time to consider such a contingency.
We used to have a dedicated film fund, didn't we? We were putting money aside to replace the film equipment every year. Has that been sort of amalgamated in with the others?
I'm not sure we have that contract anymore, though, do we? Wasn't it a contract with Southwest Films or something?
Yeah, well, there was Moviola, but we...
yes, Moviola, thank you.
And we were having to... I remember we used to, because Jean used to get us to put some money aside for one of her jam jars every year for replacing the film kit as and when it died. But that's an aside. It's whether it's.
I would actually like to recommend that we do this. It's been hanging around since April. I know that we're in a difficult situation. It's not a huge amount of money though, compared to some of the things that have been spent in the last few months. And
Can I second that?
Yeah.
Well, I just want to. I mean, John has expressed some reservations. Does anyone else want to express reservations? In that case, Adrian's put forward a motion that's been seconded by Vanessa, I think. If we can lose the screen sharing, we can vote on this and go and get a drink.
Although I'm sure I did see it last week. I can't find it on my emails this week, but
yeah.
There's
Okay.
too many emails, you can't keep track of them all, can you?
I know, that's
No.
why I like it on mod.gov. It's all in one place.
Yeah, we know of the issues that Linda's been having with the technology, and I'm sure this is a one-off, and we've got
It'll be sorted out next week.
we've got a committee clerk starting as well, so yeah. Okay, let's see. Right, so Adrian, you've proposed that we spend £2,536.20 on this piece of kit, and that's been seconded by Vanessa. Can I see a show of hands in favour, please? That is unanimous, I think, including John.
No, abstain from me, Tony.
Okay.
I do have a few reservations about the timing because I didn't see the report, which is my fault. I'm not blaming anybody else.
Okay, Sue. So we have one abstention and none against. I think we're done.
Excellent.
Yes.
Cheers,
Okay.
folks.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Cheerio.
Oh, Linda, you still there?
No.
I think she's
Linda's
gone.
gone.
Tony, sorry.
David, if you could just remind Linda on that letter to the allotment holders about the use of herbicides, insecticides, pesticides, and fungicides, she has to use the word chemical in front of that. We're not banning organic methods, etc.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. No
Thanks
problem.
very much. Take care, everyone.
Cheerio,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.